The story begins with a young man named Paul, who is showing off his tractor. Paul was a brilliant programmer and highly regarded at his job. His office performance was top-notch, and today he was supposed to be promoted due to an innovative program he had designed. However, to his shock and disappointment, his boss awarded the promotion to someone else. This betrayal stunned Paul, leading him to quit his job abroad, though he didn't feel particularly sad about it. Almost immediately, he received an impressive offer from a company in Singapore with a high salary and promising career growth. A recruiter named Andy had come to Paul's country for interviews. Andy selected a few candidates, including Paul, and arranged for their journey to Singapore. During the flight, Andy assigned Paul an unusual task. He asked Paul to hack the phones of everyone on board. Paul complied, thinking it was part of Andy's testing process. When they finally reached Singapore, a gang of goons attacked Paul and his friend the moment they stepped off the plane. Paul saw a cloth placed over his face, and just before losing consciousness, he caught sight of Andy among the goons. In that moment, Paul realized the job offer was a scam. When Paul and his friend regained consciousness, they found themselves in another country outside Singapore. They were taken to a strange factory and introduced to Ben Gailing, the industry's most notorious gangster. Ben informed them that they would be working for him and warned that any attempt to resist would have dire consequences. Terrified, Paul was led into the factory, where he saw rows of people forced to work on computers. Most were developing gambling apps under threat of torture, with taser guns used on those who resisted. Paul and his friend were taken to the second floor, where skilled software engineers worked on advanced programming and data mining tasks. These people were paid higher wages than those on the first floor, though they too were working under duress. They were then led to the third floor, where Paul was disheartened to see several young women being forced to lure men into gambling traps. Paul's dreams of building his career lay shattered. Desperate to escape, Paul began to devise a plan, but Andy soon sensed his intentions. He kicked Paul to the ground, brandished a gun, and threatened him with death if he tried to escape again. That night, Paul and his friend were confined to a squalid room filled with rats, making it impossible to sleep. Suddenly, Andy appeared and forced Paul to call his family, telling them everything was fine to avoid arousing suspicion. Andy instructed Paul to mention signal issues to keep the conversation brief, warning him not to try anything clever. Reluctantly, Paul sent a reassuring message to his family. While making the call, Paul witnessed a man tied up and brutally beaten. He was told that the man had attempted an escape. This brutal punishment extinguished any remaining hope Paul had of escaping himself. The next morning, Andy ordered Paul to carry out a significant scam. When Paul refused, Andy's men beat him severely, punishing him for his defiance. Hearing Paul's screams, the boss of the gang rushed in and ordered everyone to stop. "Hey, wait! There's no need to kill him, he'll do all our work without any trouble. I'll have him design an ad for our gambling website," he announced. Although Paul managed to complete the task, he had no intention of staying there. An idea struck him, and he scribbled a note asking for help before sneaking off to the washroom. To his surprise, he spotted a window that might allow him to send his message outside. However, as he climbed up to throw the note out, the flimsy seat broke beneath him. The noise attracted the attention of a girl, who came out to investigate. Startled, Paul watched as she forcefully snatched the note from his hand, which simply read, "Help me." This shocking moment cut to a flashback revealing the girl's story. Her name was Lily, a famous model who had earned a considerable amount of money throughout her career. One day, her image was posted on a gambling site without her permission. Her boss, believing Lily had consented, fired her for violating their contract, which prohibited her image from being used outside of their advertisements. Devastated, Lily was told about a lucrative job opportunity by a friend. Without a second thought, she accepted the offer and went to the address provided for an interview. Upon arrival, she discovered that the job involved doing a bold photo shoot. Terrified, she fled the hotel, but her friend chased after her. When her friend attempted to force himself on her, Lily slapped him. Just then, another friend intervened, threatening the man with police action and escorting Lily to her home. At her house, she met Andy from MV, who presented her with a job offer that promised good pay for minimal effort. Since the opportunity was through her friend's reference, Lily accepted without hesitation. However, Andy brought her and several other models to a village where they had their mobile phones, passports, and money confiscated. It quickly became clear to Lily that she had fallen victim to a scam. She was now forced to lure men into gambling. Like Paul, Lily did not want to engage in this illicit work, but was threatened with death if she refused. Despite her reluctance, she had no choice but to comply. The scene shifts back to the present, where Paul and Lily are conversing. During their exchange, Paul realizes that Lily is also trapped and eager to escape. Just then, someone starts knocking loudly at the door. It's Andy, who has come to retrieve Lily without checking on her. Both of them panic. Paul quickly heads to the washroom to hide the note he wrote, while Andy barges in, furious, and begins to torment Lily. She feigns illness, claiming she came to the washroom because she wasn't feeling well. Andy, ruthless as ever, seemed unnerved by her and eventually let her go, but he suspected someone was hiding with her. Determined to find out who it was, he broke down the washroom door, discovering Paul inside. Despite torturing Paul, Andy could not uncover the secret he was hiding. The scene then shifts to a new character, George, who received a message from Lily. Intrigued by a gambling opportunity, he quickly became engrossed in the game and decided to invest his money. Being naturally interested in gaming, George played his first game with Lily and, surprisingly, won a substantial amount of money. He felt on top of the world. The next day, he excitedly shared his success with his college friends and resolved to invest again. He spent his winnings on gifts for his girlfriend, but soon received another message from Lily, prompting him to play again. This time, however, luck was not on his side, and he lost badly. Disappointed and lacking funds to buy his girlfriend a gift, he reached out to Lily. Lily encouraged him, saying, "So what if you lost once? Try again, and you might win." Motivated by her words, George decided to play once more. The following day, while at college with his girlfriend, he got another message from Lily, reminding him to join the game. His phone was charging, so he wandered around the library, connecting his phone to someone else's charger and starting the game. Once again, luck seemed to favor him, or perhaps it was Lily's cunning plan to keep him gambling. He won big again, earning thousands of rupees and feeling ecstatic. The next day at work, he received another message from Lily, asking him to buy a lottery ticket. He promptly purchased an expensive ticket with a grand prize, but unfortunately lost, draining his bank account. Despite this setback, George's addiction to gambling only intensified. He became so consumed that he began selling his expensive shoes, car, and clothes, and borrowed money from friends to sustain his habit. In his desperate pursuit of money, George failed to realize that he was losing everything instead of gaining something. He lost so much that debt collectors attacked his home, taking all the valuables they could find. Even after robbing him, George's gambling debts remained unpaid. To recover their money, the collectors took him to the hospital, where they sold off parts of his body. George's health deteriorated due to severe blood loss, and his parents, heartbroken by their son's condition, sold all their possessions to cover his medical bills and gambling debts. They hoped George would learn from this traumatic experience and not return to gambling. However, despite such a significant wake-up call, he fell back into his old habits. Fortunately, his girlfriend, Sun In, was supportive and took great care of him. During one of his bets, George managed to win a full craw. But before he could celebrate, Sun In informed him that she had cancelled his bet, infuriating him. Driven mad by his addiction, George sought money by offering all his grandmother's gold and the valuables from his home. Still unsatisfied, he blackmailed his mother for the passwords to her credit card and safe, ultimately losing a fortune. He even demolished his house and invested everything in gambling, but to no avail. He could no longer win any bets. The entire gambling scheme was a scam. Initially, the gambling operators would let people win to create an addiction, but once they were completely hooked, they would take all their money. By the time George understood this, it was too late. He had lost his house, and his parents' belongings were on the street. In shock, he was confronted by Sun In, who, realizing his mental state was deteriorating, followed him home, pleading, "George, don't do anything. We can fix this together." Ignoring her, George jumped from his apartment, ending his life. The scene shifts to his sister, who had profited significantly from the gambling business. She was celebrating, surrounded by friends, all happy despite knowing their wealth came from cheating and endangering lives. Meanwhile, Lily felt elated, having reached 5 million customers with Paul's help. During their conversation in the washroom, Paul had promised her, "I can help you escape. I'll get you 5 million customers, and then you can leave." When she approached Ben for her passport, her hopes were dashed when he informed her that she couldn't leave until she achieved a target of 10 million customers. Realizing the grim reality, she accepted her fate, understanding the consequences of refusal. Meanwhile, Ben was pleased with Paul for developing high-tech systems that eliminated the need for additional workers, as all operations were now automated. He asked Paul what he wanted, and instead of asking for personal gain, Paul requested the release of all the workers. His decision was met with joy and excitement among the staff. As they were leaving, a boy approached Paul, who slipped him a secret note. The note was a signal for the police, and the boy understood its significance. On the way to the airport, Andy stopped for a cigarette but had no money. He started asking the workers for cash, but only the girl who had received the note had any. When Andy approached her for money, the shopkeeper remarked, "Excuse me, sir, this note can't be used, something is written on it." Upon reading the note, Andy became furious, realizing someone was about to inform the police. Instead of taking them to the airport, he returned to the factory and told Ben about the plot. Angered, Ben ordered the torture of everyone involved. Unable to bear the suffering of their fellow workers, Paul and Lily decided to take the blame for alerting the police. As punishment, one of Paul's legs was cut off, and Andy pulled out all of Lily's nails, causing her excruciating pain. To prevent further issues, Ben ordered the transfer of all workers to another location. While being transported by bus, Lily summoned her courage and jumped out the window. She quickly ran to the police station and reported Ben and Andy, unaware that the police had also been bribed by Ben. Shortly after, Andy arrived to capture Lily, and his men began torturing her. Lily recorded the abuse on her phone. After subjecting her to extreme torment, they tossed her into a sack and doused her with water. Once they left, one of the men returned to give her back her phone's passcode. It was revealed that Andy secretly loved Lily and had taken her because he wanted to protect her from Ben's cruelty. To convince Ben that Lily was dying, he staged the entire scenario. Grateful for his assistance, Lily rushed to the airport, where she met a friend working in security. In a panic, she revealed everything that had happened, including the details of Ben's gambling operation. Her friend informed her that Ben's network was extensive and difficult to dismantle. The police devised a clever plan to catch Ben and discreetly sent Paul a note with a date and time, instructing him to activate the fire alarm at that moment. Understanding the urgency, Paul set off the fire alarms, prompting a police raid. Ben panicked, unsure how the police had discovered him. Eventually, he realized that his betrayal came from Andy, his longtime friend. Ben contemplated killing Andy but hesitated due to their deep bond. Before he could act, the police arrived, demanding Ben's phone. Fearing for his friend, Andy shot at an officer. In response, the police opened fire, killing him instantly. Ben was captured in the operation, and 1 year later, the police continued to apprehend gamblers, significantly reducing gambling worldwide. At a press conference, Paul spoke about raising awareness against gambling, having lost one leg in the ordeal. Lily stood beside him, and together they reflected on their harrowing experiences. This story concludes with a powerful lesson: gambling can endanger not only your finances, but your life as well.